Coming up on Eyewitness News, a grandmother is cuffed at her grandson's funeral.
No, they barged in. They were rude.
Her family speaking out and what police say she did that contributed to the little boy's death.
Leave our guns alone because we're not giving them up.
Rallying for guns, people came together across the country and here at home, standing up for the Second Amendment. Thousands come out for the West Virginia Hunting and Fishing Show. We take you to the action.
Today's warmth will be replaced with bitter cold as we head towards next week. I'll have the details in just a bit.
West Virginia's source for news. Eyewitness News starts right now.
A funeral for a little boy starts off in a shocking way. Good evening. I'm Callie Cart.
And I'm Dave Benton. This is Eyewitness News. Callie, a grandmother cuffed and accused of a horrible crime. Her 2-year-old grandson was crushed to death by a kitchen stove on Tuesday, and now the grandmother has been charged in his death. Eyewitness News reporter Dan Maddox is live in the studio with the latest. Dan.
Dave, Betty Christian says burying her son was hard enough today, but she was angered when the Kentucky State Police showed up at the funeral home to arrest her mother in something she says was only an accident. Saying goodbye to a little boy taken too soon, but the somber ceremony took an unwelcome twist with his grandmother being hauled away in handcuffs.
I lost my baby. And it was very, very hard to see my mom get arrested.
Chevy Wattell's mother says she couldn't believe what was happening at her son's funeral. Her mother, Pearl Christian, and Christian's boyfriend, Byron Morrison, were both arrested, charged in Chevy's death. West Virginia State Police say Chevy was killed Monday after being crushed by a kitchen oven in the family home in the Branchland area of Lincoln County.
I think it's wrong. It's an accident. I would never hurt my grandbabies.
But police say Christian and her boyfriend were supposed to be watching Chevy and another little boy, but went to sleep. Instead, when they woke up around 10 Monday morning, she found Chevy dead.
I knew he was dead when I seen him. I know I shouldn't have went to sleep. I should have stayed up.
West Virginia State Police then issued a warrant for the couple's arrest, and on Saturday, before Chevy's funeral in Greenup County, Kentucky, Kentucky State Police arrested the two.
We didn't show up during the funeral. We didn't go in as any kind of procession was going on. Nothing like that occurred.
Chevy's mother, who is standing by her mother, was outraged.
No, they barged in. They were rude.
Troopers say the home in which the family was living in was in deplorable conditions. The two are charged with child neglect resulting in death and being a fugitive from another state. That charge stems from leaving West Virginia and going into Kentucky. In the studio, Dan Maddox, Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks, Dan. Well, family and friends are preparing to say goodbye to several young children killed in a house fire. The funeral services for the Wilfong children, ages 5 years old to just 6 months old, will be held in the auditorium of Virgie Middle School in Kentucky tomorrow afternoon. They all died January 9th when fire destroyed their home in Pike County. The children's father, William Wilfong, was also killed. Their mother, Tammy Tucker, was badly burned and has now been released from a hospital. Investigators believe the fire was caused by a space heater the family was using to keep warm. Funeral arrangements for William Wilfong have not been released. Next tonight, a developing story out of Charleston. Charleston police are still combing the area for a fugitive.
Yeah, they're actually searching for a fourth person who escaped their custody after a drug bust yesterday on the west side. Now, police are searching a home on Frank Hill Drive on the west side of the city yesterday when they say James Reyes, John Montgomery, Kashia Decawana Jones, and Edward Jacobs Jr. took off. Now, Montgomery, Jones, and Jacobs were eventually arrested. Now, they're all charged with possession with intent to distribute heroin. Police are still searching for James Reyes. If you know where he is, call police.
Several drug busts overnight to tell you about. First, a bust here in the Kanawha Valley lands 3 people behind bars, and they have ties to Detroit. Timothy Basham is charged with delivery of a controlled substance. DeMarco Randall and Martez Davis are charged with possession with the intent to deliver a controlled substance and obstructing. Court documents say members of the St. Albans Police Department Special Enforcement Unit searched a home in the 2200 block of Grant Avenue last night. They went to the home because Basham allegedly sold Opana to a confidential informant. Officers say they found Davis and Randall in the garage, surrounded by a large amount of cash and a plastic bag filled with several Opana pills. Davis and Randall allegedly told police they were there to pick up drug money. and missed their bus back to Detroit. Both Davis and Randall have outstanding warrants in Michigan. And a second bust to tell you about, this time a meth bust in Ravenswood. Police say a man there was cooking meth inside his home. Police searched the home located in the 200 block of Dye Street shortly after 8 last night. They say the search was part of an ongoing investigation. Officers say they found all of the ingredients for a shake and bake style meth lab, along with the finished product. Shane Eads has been charged with operating a clandestine lab.
Now to a story we broke first on our Eyewitness News webpage, WCHSTV.com, yesterday. The Huntington Area Food Bank is speaking out tonight after the arrest of one of their former directors for allegedly embezzling thousands of dollars. Now, Leanne Zappin was arrested last night after being indicted. State police say she stole about $24,000 from the food bank. She is charged with 8 counts each of uttering and forgery and 1 count of embezzlement. Zappin resigned in late September before news of the investigation broke. State police say she's been charged with embezzlement before. And the food bank released this statement today saying the Huntington Area Food Bank's board of directors and employees have cooperated fully in this investigation and will continue to assist prosecutors as this case moves through the court system.
And it's great to have you with us on this Saturday evening. I'm meteorologist Brandon Stover. We had a very spring-like Saturday. And if you're a fan of spring-like weather, well, I hope you enjoyed today's weather, because we're not going to see that for quite some time. Again, we're going to see a true winter-like pattern develop as we head in towards next week. Right now, though, it's mild out here and dry. We're not tracking anything. Temperatures outside right now also running above average. Most of us are in the 40s currently. 47 in Charleston, 48 Grantsville. Even Beckley not too bad for this time of the year, 39 there. 48 in Portsmouth, 47 in Huntington, 49 in Hamlin, 50 in Marietta. As long as that breeze blows, and it's still blowing, it will keep our temperatures up overnight. Tomorrow, we're going to see a rain or snow shower off towards your east. We're going to be in the low 40s. I'll have more in just a bit.
All right, thank you, Brandon. In national news, gun appreciation sweeps the nation in a national movement kicked off by a protest saying, hands off our guns.
Yeah, millions gathered really all across the country to show their appreciation for guns and to defend their Second Amendment rights. Organizers of today's event expected millions of Americans to turn up at gun stores, parks, and Capitol buildings to celebrate the Second Amendment and to send a clear message to Congress and the President to leave their guns alone. Gun Appreciation Day comes 2 days before President Obama's second inauguration and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Meanwhile, here in Charleston, hundreds gathered at the Capitol for Gun Appreciation Day. Hundreds of gun supporters rallied at the state Capitol. The heated battle over gun control began after the mass shootings in Aurora, Colorado, and then in Newtown, Connecticut. Shortly after the massacre in Newtown, the president passed several executive orders and asked Congress to pass tighter gun laws. But event organizers say it's a move that would punish many for a crime they did not commit.
I fully support us looking into ways to curb gun violence, but taking rights away from law-abiding citizens, hardworking people, is not right.
The message to the public is leave our guns alone, because we're not giving them up.
Now, the actions likely to have the most impact on Americans still have to be approved by Congress. And right now, that appears to be a long shot, with several GOP lawmakers heavily criticizing Obama's decisions.
And gun enthusiasts were at the Charleston Civic Center today for the West Virginia Hunting and Fishing Show. And the National Rifle Association was also there. The NRA was selling new memberships. Anyone who signed up got into the show for free. And they say they were pretty busy today. Also in national news, Washington is gearing up for the 57th presidential inauguration.
Yeah, on Monday, President Obama will take the oath of office for his second term. But before that, the president will take the official oath in a private ceremony. Fox's Craig Boswell is in Washington, where all the action is about to take place.
The Constitution sets aside January 20th as Inauguration Day. Because it falls on a Sunday this year, President Obama will be sworn in privately that day. The public ceremony takes place Monday. It's a stunning view of the west front of the Capitol and the inaugural platform where President Barack Obama will take the oath of office. The 44th president will place his hand on two Bibles, one used by President Lincoln at his first inaugural and a Bible used by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. President Obama added King's Bible for the ceremony that falls on the holiday honoring the civil rights leader.
I very much like the pairing of this with Martin Luther King's Bible. I think it really makes a very compelling statement. The man who abolishes slavery and the man who fights for civil rights leading up to the inauguration of Barack Obama for a second term.
In 2009, 1.8 million people jammed the National Mall for the president's first inauguration, the largest attendance of any event in the history of Washington. This time, about 900,000 are expected, and getting around is not easy.
Last year, the closure of particularly, the tunnels, people had to go. In order to get to their homes, they had to go through a beltway, and I don't think it's good.
Crews are taking steps to protect 6.5 acres of new grass on the mall, and barricades are going up across the city to direct overflow crowds.
It's a celebration of America and the democratic process, and whatever pains occur with that are part of something that needs to happen, so I just let it go.
Now, during the inauguration ceremony, Beyonce will sing the national anthem, Kelly Clarkson will perform, and James Taylor will sing America the Beautiful. Lady Gaga is also set to perform on Tuesday at the White House Ball for Staffers.
Well, with the big party on Capitol Hill just 2 days away, the big question many are asking is, who's footing the bill? Well, the answer, unions, fundraisers, and special interest groups. That's according to a new report released last night. Now, our investigative news partners at the Washington Guardian received a list of donors shelling out major cash for the inauguration. 4 years ago, the president's committee refused big dollar donations from special interests and big corporations. Well, times have changed in 4 years. His inaugural committee announced they are accepting million-dollar donations this time. The donors include companies like AT&T, which spends millions of dollars lobbying Washington for legislation and laws that help its company. There are also big money donations from labor, postal workers, and government employee unions, among many others.
Well, as President Obama heads into his next term on Monday, a new survey says more than half of Americans think he did a good job, as many say he met or exceeded their expectations. Another poll by CNN shows his scores are a little lower on the issues people think are most important. About 51% of people disapprove of the job he's doing with the economy. About 57% don't like how he's handled the deficit. The president gets a higher approval rating on foreign policy and terrorism, but people don't think those issues are as important right now. The president's overall approval rating is at 55%.
And for anyone who's ever lost a remote control, a new movement in software could be right up your alley. Karen Kaifa takes a look at gesture recognition and how your devices could soon be controlled with a wave of your hand.
The next wave of interacting with your TV, your PC, or your tablet may eliminate clicking a mouse, pushing a button, or swiping a screen. Instead,
and smile. So you can just use your hand to control your TV, laptop, tablet, any device that has a 2D camera.
Software companies are moving forward with gesture control for home electronics, gaming, laptops, even cars. One company hoping to get a piece of the market is Israeli-based Point Grab.
Think about the time that you spend to look for a remote control. Instead of that, you have your hands with you all the time. You just need to raise it and control the volume, browse different channels.
In this demonstration with a laptop, a camera reads the user's motions. A wave browses channels. Sliding a hand up and down controls volume. TVs are a target device because of their stationary position in a room and consumers' generally stationary viewing habits. But instead of learning how to operate a clunky remote control, the TV has to get to know you better.
You don't need to learn how to interact with your device. Instead of that, our technology helps the device better understand you and read your body language.
One challenge in the early stages of the technology, different gestures across different devices for the same action, meaning manufacturers may have to come up with some standards down the line. I'm Karen Kaifa, and you're now clicked in.
Well, some call them virtual strip searches. Now the TSA is getting rid of detailed full-body scanners at airports all across the country. The TSA says 174 backscatter body scanners will be removed from 30 airports by June. The move comes after Rapskin, the maker of the machines, told Congress they couldn't meet the deadline to install privacy software. Other machines that display a generic outline of the human body will still be used at airport security checkpoints. According to the TSA, getting rid of the machines will actually make for faster lanes for travelers and enhanced security. And if you're taking off soon, some good news if you fly Delta. The airline company is changing its frequent flyer rules by adding a spending requirement. The bottom rung of its SkyMiles medallion program will require a flyer to spend at least $2,500 annually on tickets. The next level requires $5,000 in ticket purchases, followed by $7,500. Top rung benefits will require $12,000 to $500 in ticket spending. Now the new requirements mean some flyers may get bumped down to a lower rung or even out of the program. The change starts on January 1st, 2014 for membership status in the 2015 program.
Manti Te'o broke his silence today. The Notre Dame star player and Heisman Trophy runner-up finally spoke out about his dead girlfriend who never really existed. The story broke on Wednesday, and since then Te'o has remained silent, and speculation has really been swirling about whether he was a victim of an elaborate hoax or was in on it to drum up sympathy. He told ESPN's Jeremy Schaap that he had never actually met his girlfriend, but tailored his stories, saying he had met her because he didn't want people to think he was crazy for being in love with someone he had never met. He says his girlfriend's existence, he later found out, was a complete fabrication perpetuated by an acquaintance.
Well, hey there, the Mountaineers came into today's final non-conference game of the season on the heels of a pair of tough losses. Two of them combined by just 3 points, but at least West Virginia was in those two games. Unlike today's showdown in West Lafayette, site of Purdue University. Matt Painter's team came to play. DJ Bird from deep. The Mountaineers in a 12-point hole, and it's getting worse. Tyrone Johnson is going to increase that deficit to 14. That's what the Mountaineers trail by at the break. Second half, and it gets no better. Raphael Davis for three. Pops. Davis again after the kick out for another three. It's a 25-point Purdue lead. Anthony Johnson increases it to 30. Later, A.J. Hammonds would get the tip back right here. It's a 32-point game. Largest deficit of the day. West Virginia crushed in this one. Not good. Hey, meanwhile, Marshall in action, and the Herd does get one. Marshall puts it on East Carolina, jumped out to a 20-point first-half lead. You see the big stat line there by DeAndre Kane, 22 points, 8 assists. The Herd gets it done after a week-long layoff, 77-56. Complete highlights and post-game reaction from both of these games a bit later in sports. Stay tuned for that.
All right, thank you, Josh. Well, it's a Golden Delicious new stamp. That's right. The United States Postal Service is recognizing the Mountain State's official state fruit by putting it on a stamp. The 33-cent postcard stamp features 4 different apple varieties found right here in the Mountain State. The other apples shown are the Northern Spy, the Baldwin, and the Granny Smith. Now, if you would like to get your own West Virginia apple stamp, just head to the post office or to their website. Well, the spirit of New Orleans filled the Grand Hall of the Clay Center this evening for Carnival. The magic of the French Quarter was transplanted to Charleston as people celebrated an authentic New Orleans night. Now, the event was organized by Friends of Clay Center and the Charleston Ballet staff. The benefit included a live auction and, for the very first time, an online silent auction. Last year's sellout event brought in more than $92,000, and that money goes to fund school field trips, outreach projects, and distance learning programs for students here in the Mountain State.
It looks like fun. Well, it is now time to get tomorrow's headlines tonight. More on uncovered DNA evidence that linked killer to unsolved Charleston murder. Plus, one key part of Governor Tomlin's comprehensive mine safety bill still isn't being enforced nearly a year after the legislation was approved. And turnovers, shooting woes doom WVU and blowout loss at Purdue. You can read all about those stories and many more in tomorrow's edition of the Charleston Gazette. Arnold Schwarzenegger is returning to the big screen. We check out his latest movie, Last Stand, tonight in our Screen Gems report, next here on Eyewitness News.
We had a spring-like Saturday, but Arctic air is coming our way as we head towards next week. I'll have those details and your complete 7-day forecast coming up next.